And like I was sober for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And now why am I not sober? Because of you. Like you're hindering my progress.
You need to sit down. You need to sit
Let go of me. Let go of me.
Come on.
Let go of me.
Okay.
Come on, boy. Let go of me. Like I can't even I'll try to hit you later. Like get the off me.
You don't want to hit me? Courtney,
Yes, I'm not mad at you.
You let Malone say some line ass that affected you.
I didn't let her say anything.
I didn't say
You did it.
Hey, let's go to Malone right now. Let's pull up her.
No. I'm just gonna say her the same.
No, she's in the group chat. Let's put her on the phone right now.
I dare you.
Yeah, you dare me? Keep saying
you
it.
do it.
Then stop saying it then.
Do it.
Then stop saying it then. Then stop saying it then.
Let's look. I'll
Come on. Ask her. Ask her, did I touch her breast
Do you see
yesterday?
how get if years?
No, you're telling me I touched her breast yesterday when I
You did. I didn't say you touched it.
You said I did.
You were leaning. Yo, you were dumb as I actually don't want to be with you. Actually, I'm done.
Okay.
Can you send him home?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm done.
Okay, fine.
Done. Because you're costing me money. I didn't do shit. I got to this house because of you.
You let Malone say some line ass.
No, because you were flirting with 3 girls the whole time.
What 3 girls? What 3 girls? You?
Well, maybe it doesn't matter.
You?
Milan.
Milan? I was with Milan?
And she's saying, hey, come get your mans. He's trying to come home with me.
You're lying.
No, I'm not.
You're lying. She said, come get your mans that I was trying to hit on Milan. Come on, baby.
Okay.
That doesn't even sound right.
Christian, you're fired.
Fine.
Hopefully, shut up. Hopefully.
You are the most
Good. Hopefully you will let me.
Courtney.
Get the out of here. This isn't even my house.
Yeah, cool.
It's not my house. You're just like my boyfriend. Get the out of here.
Just like your
I
boyfriend?
can actually get done if you're not here.
Yeah.
Get the out of here.
Okay, I'll remember that next time.
Get out of here. No, that's not even the next time. Get the out. Get out.
Don't touch me again.
Good thing. Get out. Get out. You never loved me. The way you talk, the way that you treated the girls last night, you embarrassed me. I don't want anything to do with you.
Embarrassing yesterday. You're really just self-conscious. You always talk about, oh, Christian, you like this. I say, what did I tell you before? You're the baddest person in this. No one has anything on you. I tell you this every day. I have text messages that you say, Christian, thank you for the content.
Shut up! No, you don't do it the next day!
Why are you screaming? There's people in this house.
Get out, for real. I never want to see you again.
Miami, Florida. A city of sun-soaked glamour, million-dollar skylines, and secrets that rot quietly behind penthouse doors. It was April 3rd, 2022, a Sunday evening, when officers responded to an aggravated battery call at the One Paraiso building in Miami's Edgewater neighborhood, a luxury high-rise, the kind of place where the rent alone costs $10,000 a month, the kind of place where people assume nothing bad can happen, because money has a way of making the world look clean. But when those officers stepped off that elevator and walked through that apartment door, what they found was anything but clean. 27-year-old Christian Abumseli, a young man who had survived a pandemic, rebuilt his life, fallen in love, was dying. A knife wound to the chest, 3 inches deep, straight into the heart. And standing in that apartment, the woman he lived with, the woman he loved, a social media personality with nearly 2 million followers and a face the internet knew well. Her name was Courtney Clenney, and within hours, she would tell investigators something that would split public opinion straight down the middle. Something that would set off a legal battle so twisted, so dramatic, so full of unanswered questions, that 4 years later, we are still waiting for a jury to decide what really happened in that room. She said she threw the knife. She didn't stab him, she threw it, in self-defense, because she was scared, because she was the victim. But prosecutors looked at that wound 3 inches deep into a man's chest, and they said, that is not what a thrown knife does. That kind of wound comes from force, from intent, from something far more deliberate than fear. So who is telling the truth? Was Courtney Clenney a battered woman pushed to the edge, or was she the aggressor who finally went too far? That is the question this entire case has been asking since day one. And as of right now, in the summer of 2026, after 4 years of delays, courtroom battles, suppressed evidence, and a judge who has publicly run out of patience, we are finally on the doorstep of a verdict. Before we go any further, if you are new here, welcome to Global Crime Facts, the channel where we break down the world's most compelling criminal cases with depth, detail, and zero fluff. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this case is heading to trial in August, and I will be covering every single development as it happens. You do not want to miss this one. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Courtney Clenney did not grow up thinking she would one day be infamous. She grew up in Texas with ambition, the kind of restless, burning ambition that makes a person feel like the town they were born in is already too small. She wanted to perform. She wanted to be seen. And in the age of social media, she found exactly the platform to make that happen. By her mid-20s, Courtney, who went by the name Courtney Taylor online, had built something most people only dream about. Nearly 2 million followers on Instagram. A lucrative OnlyFans account that generated more income than most people earn in a decade. Brand deals, sponsored posts, a digital empire constructed entirely on her image. On the outside, she looked like a woman who had figured it all out. Young, beautiful, financially independent and free. But the image and the reality were two very different things. In January 2020, Courtney was arrested in Texas for a DUI, found asleep at the wheel after crashing into another vehicle. It was an early crack in the polished surface, a glimpse of something chaotic running beneath the highlight reel. She would not be the first person to hide turbulence behind a carefully curated feed, but it mattered, because the chaos did not go away. It followed her. Now Christian Abumseli. Christian was 26 years old when the pandemic hit, working in the cryptocurrency industry and building a life for himself. When he was laid off during the economic shutdown of 2020, he did what millions of people did that year. He adapted, he pushed forward, and he kept going. By all accounts, people who knew Christian described him as driven, warm, the kind of young man with a future that felt wide open. In November 2020, in the strange, suspended reality of a world still reeling from a pandemic, Courtney and Christian crossed paths. Two people, one drowning in visibility, one quietly rebuilding, drawn to each other in the way that sometimes only makes sense in the moment. They became a couple, and for a time, at least on the surface, things looked promising. By early 2022, the relationship had escalated in every direction. They had moved into one of Miami's most exclusive high-rise buildings, the One Paraiso Tower in the Edgewater neighborhood. The apartment cost $10,000 a month. Courtney paid for all of it. Every dollar of that lifestyle, the rent, the furniture, the skyline view, came from her income. Christian, still navigating his career, was financially dependent on her. That dynamic matters, because in the months that followed, it would become central to how each side told the story of what went wrong. What we know from documented records, from police reports, from neighbors, from the walls of that building, is that the relationship between Courtney Clenney and Christian Abumseli was not quiet. It was not stable.
This young lady, she informed us that her boyfriend comes charging towards her, and we actually try to get in the middle of it.
I want a restraining order against Christian Abumseli.
We don't issue those.
No, I'm serious. Can I do that? Where
can I go to court?
So what can I do to be safe now?
Why is it that you don't feel safe with him? Has he threatened you? Was there any type of physical violence to you?
Yes.
It was loud, and it was volatile, and it was the kind of volatile that leaves marks. There were arguments. There were incidents. There were calls. The building staff knew their names, not because of her following, but because of what they heard through the walls and in the corridors and at the front desk. Both sides would later claim to be the victim. And that is where this case becomes genuinely complicated, because the evidence does not point cleanly in one direction. Courtney's legal team would go on to argue that she was a woman trapped in an abusive relationship, that Christian was the aggressor, that she lived in fear, that every bruise, every incident, every moment of chaos in that apartment was something done to her, not by her. Christian's family would argue the exact opposite, that Courtney was controlling, that she was the one with the temper, that she was the danger in that relationship, and that the documentation of her aggression went back further and ran deeper than anyone in her camp was willing to admit. The truth, as it so often does, likely lived somewhere in the space between two versions of a story told by people with everything to lose. What is not disputed is this. By the spring of 2022, whatever existed between Courtney Clenney and Christian Abumseli had reached a breaking point. The glamour of the high-rise, the Instagram life, the OnlyFans income, None of it was enough to hold together something that had been fracturing from the inside. April was coming, and with it, a Sunday evening that neither of them would walk away from the same way. Christian Abumseli would not walk away from it at all. April 3rd, 2022 began like any other Sunday in Miami. The city was warm, the kind of warm that makes everything feel slow and inevitable, like the heat itself is pressing down on whatever is already simmering beneath the surface. Inside the One Paraíso Tower, behind the floor-to-ceiling windows of their 10th floor apartment, something had already gone wrong between Courtney Clenney and Christian Abumseli long before the sun began to set. What started that argument, the precise word, the look, the moment the temperature in that room crossed a line, no one outside those four walls can say with certainty. What we know is that by early evening, whatever was happening inside that apartment had become something the building could no longer ignore. A call came in. Aggravated battery. Officers were dispatched to the One Paraíso building. Before police even arrived, a front desk supervisor made his way up to the apartment. What he found when he got there, he documented with his phone, photographs, videos, a visual record of the scene as it existed before law enforcement set foot through that door. Investigators would later discover that this employee had been told to delete that footage. He did. And when that came to light, it became one of the earliest and most damaging controversies in the entire case. A question about who gave that instruction, and why, and what exactly those images and videos showed before they disappeared. When officers finally entered the apartment, Christian Abumseli was still alive, but only just. He had a knife wound to his chest, a single wound but a devastating one. The blade had entered 3 inches deep, directly into his heart. He was rushed to hospital, where he later died from his injuries. He was 27 years old. Courtney Clenney was at the scene. And from the very first moment she spoke to investigators, she said the same thing she has been saying ever since, that she did not murder Christian Abumseli, that she was terrified, that he had come at her, and that in a moment of desperation and fear, she had thrown a kitchen knife in his direction to stop him. She threw it. She did not drive it into his chest. That was her account. That has always been her account. Investigators listened. They documented. And initially, remarkably, the death was treated as a possible case of self-defense. No arrest was made that night. No charges were filed in the immediate aftermath. Courtney was not taken into custody. For a moment, it seemed like the story might end there. A tragedy. A relationship gone violently wrong. A young man dead and a young woman claiming she acted out of fear. But Christian Abumseli's family refused to let it end there. His relatives, devastated, vocal, and absolutely unconvinced by the self-defense narrative, began speaking publicly and loudly. They pushed back against the idea that Christian was the aggressor. They pushed back against the framing that Courtney was the victim. They demanded that investigators look harder, dig deeper, and ask questions that they felt were not being asked with nearly enough urgency. And so investigators kept digging. What they found as they pulled back the layers of this relationship was a documented history that complicated everything. There were prior incidents, prior calls, prior moments where the aggression in that apartment had spilled outward far enough to leave a record. Prosecutors would later compile what are known in Florida law as Williams Rule witnesses, individuals prepared to testify not about April 3rd specifically, but about a pattern of behavior, a pattern of violence, all of it pointing, in the state's view, toward Courtney Clenney as the consistent source of danger in that relationship. There was also something else, something Christian had done quietly in the months before his death that would become one of the most fiercely contested pieces of evidence in the entire case. He had been recording her. Secret audio recordings made without Courtney's knowledge, capturing moments inside their relationship that Christian, for whatever reason, felt the need to document. Perhaps he was protecting himself. Perhaps he knew that if something happened, he wanted there to be a record. Whatever his reasons, those recordings existed. and when prosecutors discovered them, they believed they had found something powerful. The defense moved immediately to have them thrown out, and they won. Judge Andrea Wolfson ruled that the recordings were inadmissible, illegal surreptitious recordings made without consent, captured in a private setting. Whatever was on those recordings, a jury would never hear it. It was a significant blow to the prosecution and a significant victory for Courtney's legal team. But it was far from the last battle in a case that was rapidly becoming one of the most legally complicated proceedings in Miami-Dade County in years. Because while all of this was unfolding, Courtney Clenney had left Florida entirely. In the months following Christian's death, she had traveled to Hawaii. Her attorney said she was there seeking help, rehabilitation for substance abuse and post-traumatic stress disorder. Whatever her reasons for being there, it was in Hawaii, in August 2022, that law enforcement caught up with her. She was arrested, charged with second-degree murder with a deadly weapon. And from that moment, from the day those handcuffs went on, Courtney Clenney has not been a free woman. Every attempt to secure her release on bond has failed. Prosecutors have argued successfully, each time, that her financial resources and her access to travel make her a genuine flight risk. The woman who once funded an entire lifestyle from her phone, who built $1 million following from nothing, has sat in a Miami-Dade County jail cell for the better part of 4 years, waiting for a trial that has been delayed so many times, by so many complications, that even the judge presiding over the case has begun to lose patience in open court. But here is the thing about this case that makes it genuinely different from most. The arrest was just the beginning. Because what came next, the legal warfare that erupted in the years between that Hawaii arrest and the trial that is now finally scheduled for August 2026, is a story all of its own. A story involving her parents, a deleted laptop, attorney-client privilege, a prosecutor's office fighting accusations of misconduct, and a defense strategy built around one of the most powerful and controversial arguments in criminal law. If the arrest of Courtney Clenney in Hawaii was the end of the first act, what followed in the years after was something far messier, far more complicated, and far more revealing about just how much was at stake for everyone involved. Because this was no longer just a murder case. It had become a war. On one side, the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office, armed with forensic evidence, a growing list of witnesses, and the absolute conviction that what happened in that apartment on April 3, 2022 was not self-defense. That the wound in Christian Abumseli's chest, 3 inches deep, straight into the heart, was the result of a deliberate, forceful downward thrust. Not a throw, not a panic, a decision. On the other side, a defense team fighting with everything it had, filing motions, challenging evidence, attacking the integrity of the prosecution at every turn, and quietly, carefully, building a strategy that they believed could walk Courtney Clenney out of that courtroom a free woman. But before any of that could play out in front of a jury, things got significantly more complicated and significantly more personal. In early 2024, Courtney's parents, Kim and Deborah Clenney, were arrested. The charge was alarming in its specificity. Prosecutors alleged that in the aftermath of Christian's death, the Clenneys had accessed his personal laptop without authorization, not by breaking down a door or stealing a device, but by sitting down, guessing his password, and deliberately unlocking a dead man's computer. Text messages that surfaced during the investigation revealed the family and members of their legal circle actively discussing how to get into the device, strategizing, coordinating. Looking, investigators believed, for something that could help Courtney's case. It was the kind of detail that, in a true crime case, lands like a grenade. But the story did not end with an arrest and a conviction. It ended, at least legally, with a ruling. A judge determined that investigators had improperly accessed communications protected under attorney-client privilege during their own investigation into the hacking. The Clenneys' charges were dropped. The evidence gathered in that process was tainted. And the defense pivoted immediately, filing a motion to have the entire Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office disqualified from the case, arguing that prosecutors had deliberately accessed privileged defense strategy documents and had therefore compromised the integrity of the entire proceeding. That motion ultimately failed, but the fact that it was filed at all and that it had enough substance to be seriously considered tells you everything you need to know about how deeply dysfunctional the relationship between the two sides had become. The iCloud account became the next battlefield. Investigators sought access to a cloud storage account shared between Courtney and her parents, hoping it contained communications relevant to the case. The defense fought back hard, calling it a fishing expedition, arguing the warrant was overbroad and the prosecution was grasping. Judge Andrea Wolfson, the presiding judge who by this point had developed a reputation for keeping this runaway case on as tight a leash as the law would allow, sided partially with the defense. She restricted prosecutors to a specific window of data, April 2021 to August 2022, communications only, nothing beyond those boundaries. It was a compromise that satisfied neither side fully, but it was a ruling, and in a case starved of finality, even a partial ruling felt like progress. And then there was the matter of the deleted footage. Cast your mind back to that front desk supervisor, the building employee who arrived at the apartment before police, documented what he saw, and was then told to erase it. That footage, whatever it showed, whoever it implicated, whatever version of that night it captured before the scene was disturbed, is gone. The defense raised this as a serious issue of evidence preservation. Whether a jury will ever hear about it, and what weight they will give it, remains to be seen. Through all of this, through every motion, every hearing, every legal skirmish, one thing remained constant. Courtney Clenney sat in a Miami-Dade County jail cell, watching her case move through the courts at a pace that must have felt from the inside like standing still. Her bond hearings became almost ritualistic in their outcome. She would appear, her attorneys would argue, prosecutors would remind the court of her financial resources, her platform, her ability to disappear if given the chance, and the judge would deny the motion, every time, without exception. 4 years, no bail, no trial, no verdict. Until now. Because the defense strategy that has been quietly taking shape across these years is not simply about poking holes in the prosecution's forensic argument. It is something far more ambitious and far more emotionally powerful. Courtney Clenney's legal team intends to argue battered spouse syndrome. For those unfamiliar with the term, it is a psychological framework used to explain the behavior of individuals who remain in and sometimes respond violently to abusive relationships. The argument in its most fundamental form is this. A person who has been subjected to prolonged abuse can develop a psychological state in which their perception of danger, their threshold for fear, and their capacity to respond rationally to threat are all fundamentally altered. They do not see an escape. They do not leave, and when they finally act, when they reach the moment where they believe their life is genuinely at risk, that action, however extreme it appears to an outside observer, is the action of someone trying to survive. It is a defense that has worked. It has also failed, and it tends to divide juries in ways that are almost impossible to predict. To anchor this argument, Courtney's attorneys have retained one of the most significant expert witnesses they could have possibly chosen, Dr. Lenore Walker, a name that, in legal and psychological circles, carries extraordinary weight, because Dr. Lenore Walker did not simply study battered woman syndrome. She defined it. She developed the theory. She wrote the foundational research that transformed how courts across the world understand the psychology of abuse survivors. Having her testify on Courtney's behalf is not a small thing. It is a statement. It is the defense planting a flag and saying, "We are not retreating from this argument. We are doubling down on it with the most credible voice in the field." The prosecution, of course, has its own answer to all of this. Their Williams Rule witnesses, The individuals prepared to testify about prior incidents of aggression are designed to dismantle the battered spouse narrative before it can take root in the jury's mind. If prosecutors can establish, through multiple voices and multiple incidents, that Courtney Clenney had a consistent pattern of being the aggressor in this relationship, then the picture Dr. Walker paints begins to crack. The story of a frightened woman defending herself begins to look, in the prosecution's framing, like the story of a violent woman who went too far and is now using the language of victimhood as a shield. That is the trial that is coming. Not since the beginning of this case has it felt as close, as real, and as imminent as it does right now. The third week of August 2026, that is the date. Judge Wolfson, who has watched this case drag across years of delays, missed depositions, legal warfare, and courtroom theatrics, has made it unambiguously clear that this continuance is the last one. Her words, spoken directly to the attorneys on both sides, left no room for interpretation. There will be no more delays, no more missed witnesses, no more motions to push the calendar forward. August is the date, and August is when this goes in front of a jury. Courtney Clenney will walk into that courtroom having spent the better part of 4 years behind bars without a single day of trial. Christian Abumseli's family will walk in carrying 4 years of grief, 4 years of waiting, and 4 years of watching a case that should have been resolved long ago continue to circle without landing. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, in the gap between a thrown knife and a forceful thrust, between a battered woman and a calculated aggressor, between two people whose relationship was equal parts love and destruction, a jury of 12 ordinary people will be asked to decide what actually happened in that apartment. Was it murder or was it survival? The courtroom doors open in August, and when they do, global crime facts will be there for every single moment.